This is 3.5, order of operations and complex numbers. We're going to start with example 1. Again, we're focusing on those order of operations. So we want to remember we have parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division from left to right. I'm going to write DM to remind you division can come first, and then addition and subtraction. And subtraction can come before addition. So remember that. Order of operations, starting with 5 plus 2.5 times 3 2/3. Now, how do I know it's multiplication? Because there's no symbol, but there are parentheses. So let's get started with the first set. We're going to do this piece right here where we're going to have to focus in on the multiplication part. So I'm going to really just bring this down. This 5 is just going to keep coming down. And I'm going to focus on expanding this. And we know when we multiply two mixed numbers that we have to make them into improper fractions. So 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2 times 3 times 3 is 9 plus 2 is 11 over 3. When I multiply, I can't cross cancel, so I'm going to multiply straight across. I get 5 plus, and we know we're going to have a 5 times 11, which is 55, over 2 times 3, which is 6. Now, when I want to add these two numbers, we have to remember that we have to have a common denominator, which we do not have. We have 5 over 1, or 5, plus 55 sixths. So we need to make this into a common denominator of 6, because 1 can be turned into anything. So we're going to focus on this part, and we're going to convert it from 5 over 1 to 6. Now, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to focus in on multiplying by 6 on top and the bottom to get 30. And when I do that, I then can add in 55 over 6, and I get 55 plus 30, and we end up with 85 sixths, which we then can simplify because 6 goes into 85, and you can think about it as a division problem. 6 goes into 8 one time with 6 left. 1 times 6 is 6 with 2 left over. Bring down the 5. 6 goes into 25 4 times. 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract and we get 1. So we have a remainder of 1. That means we have 14 and 1/6 as our answer. This is the way that most students have always learned how to do it. Let me show you a much easier way. I think that when you get to this point here, you should actually be thinking about it as 5 plus 55 over 6, and this is the thing you want to change. This right here is a smaller number than 85, so you can easily do the division. 6 goes into 55. This also means you don't have to make a common denominator. Not yet anyway. So 6 goes into 55, and you need to think about that. It goes in 9 times. 6 times 9 is 54. And I have 1 left over. So that would mean that I have 9 and 1/6, and then we need to add that 5 in, plus 5. And guess what we get? 14 and 1/6. So either way is fine. You want to remember that smaller numbers is always easier than bigger numbers. So if you have a whole number, take the option of using the smaller one. Let's try another one. Example 2 says 3/4 plus 5/8 times, because that's where your multiplication symbol goes in, 2 3/8 plus 1 1/4. So the very first thing that I see is we need to do the parentheses, the first set. So when we go to do this parentheses set, I notice that they have an unlike denominator. I know that 4 goes into 8 though, so I'm going to keep the 5/8, but I'm going to have to change this one to 8s. So what is 3/4 and converted to eighths? 4 times 2 is 8, so 3 times 2 is 6. So we have 6/8 because I'm going to put that in there. Now, what you could do is you could do the math for these right now as well, or you can wait, it's up to you. Again, we know that we're going to have to multiply these at some point. So you can be thinking of it like this. 2 3/8 plus 1 1/4. We know that this needs to be an eighth, so 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 2 is 2. Add them together. And now I have 3, 4, 5/8, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So we have the first part, 6 plus 5 is 11, over 8 times 3 5/8. Now we can't multiply these because this is a mixed number, so we're going to multiply. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 5 is 29, over 8, times 11 over 8. We're going to multiply straight across because we can't cross cancel. And when we do 11 times 29, you might need to do it up here. So 11 times 29, 9 times 1 is 9, times 1 is 9. Bring down a 0. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2. Add them together. And 9 plus 2 is 11, so I get 319. And I know 8 times 8 is 64. I have to simplify, so that means I'm going to do a division problem. 64 goes into 319 how many times? I need to get a good guess, so I'm going to try 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. That's pretty close to 319, so we're going to try it. 4 times 64 is going to give me 256. Let's subtract. 9 take away 6 is 3. I'm going to borrow from the 3, make it a 2, and now I have 11 take away 5, which is 6. And I know that 63 is less than 64, so 4 must be our answer. So we have 4, and then 63 left over, 64, and we are done. On the next part we have is 3/5 plus 1/2 times 3 over 2/3 plus 4 1/3 squared. So the very first thing that I see is I have parentheses and I have an exponent. So we have to focus on those first, so these are just going to have to wait. So we're going to leave 3/5 plus 1/2, and we're going to focus in on 3 2/3 plus 4 1/3. So 3 2/3 plus 4 1/3. 2 plus 1 is 3, so I have 3 over 3, and 3 plus 4 is 7. Well, we know 3/3 is 1 whole, so this makes 1. So we're going to add that to 7 to get 8. So we have 3/5 plus 1/2 times 8 squared. 8 squared is going to be 64. So 3/5 plus 1/2, remember this, is 8 times 8, which is 64. Now we're going to think of this as half of 64 or half times 64. You can think of it either way. So really what we're doing is we're taking this and we're doing 64 over 1. And 2 goes into 64 32 times. Or you can think of half of 64 is going to give us 32. 2. These multiplied together give me 32. Whenever you have a whole number and a fraction, what you can do is you can do what we call like smushing it together, and you're gonna get 32 and 3/5. Because it's a whole number and a fraction, you're just gonna push it together for your final answer. Sometimes there's going to be division problems and division problems. So like 3/4 is technically 3 divided by 4, and then it has another line, and then 5/6. So 3/4 divided by 5/6. And let's rewrite, that is always the first step. 3/4 divided by 5/6. And that means you're going to do keep, flip, change. So it's the same type of problem, it just looks different. 3/4 times 6/5. Cross cancel. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 5 is 10. And I'm done. Looking at example 5. We have for example 5 a half plus 2/3 divided by 3/4 take away 1/6. So because this looks a little bit yucky, we're going to always rewrite it. I have 1/2 plus 2/3. There's your division sign. And I'm going to write my other set, 3/4 minus 1/6. The first thing I notice is these don't have a common denominator and these don't have a common denominator. So I'm going to do common denominators first because parentheses comes before division. So what does half and 2/3 have in common? Half and 2/3 has 6 in common. So we're going to convert them both to 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. So we have 3/6 plus 4/6 divided by. I notice that 4 and 6 need to be subtracted, but they again are not common. So we need to convert those. We have 3/4 and 1/6. We need to make those into something, and the one that they would have in common is 12 for their least common denominator. So we're going to convert those. 4 times 3 is 12, and 3 times 3 is 9. 6 times 2 is 12, 1 times 2 is 2. So we have 9/12 take away 2/12. Let's take care of our parentheses. So 3 plus 4 is 7. So 7/6 divided by 9 take away 2 is going to give me 7/12. Now I'm going to do keep, flip, change. So I have 7/6 times 12/7. The 7's cross cancel. And you could cross cancel the 12 and the 6. 6 goes into 12 2 times, and 6 divided by 6 is 1. So we have a whole bunch of 1's. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1, so 2/1 is just 2. Example 6. 3 plus a half divided by 2 minus 3/4. Let's rewrite. We have parenthesis, because this is the top group, 3 plus a half. That's a whole number and a fraction. We can just smush that together. So I already know that that's going to be 3.5. Divided by, there's the division sign, 2 take away 3/4. That looks a little bit more difficult. That's going to have some borrowing. So divided by. Remember when we did the 2? and we converted it by taking 1 away. So we make it a 1. And then we take the denominator and we put it next to it, 4 over 4. So we have 1 here, plus 1 is 2. So we have 1 and 4/4, take away 3/4. When I do that, I'm going to have that 3.5 divided by 4, take away 3 is 1, 4th, and 1 minus 0 is 1. Now, we're going to have to divide. We have mixed numbers, so we need to make them improper. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7 over 2, divided by 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 4. Keep, flip, change. So we're going to keep 7/2, change it to multiply, and 4/5. 2 goes into 4, 2 times. 7 times 2 is 14. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 goes into 14 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 gets me back to 14. And the last one. It says 10 1/3 divided by 8 2/3. We'll make those into improper fractions. 10 times 3 is 30 plus 1 is 31/3 divided by 8 times 3 is 24 plus 2 is 26/3. Keep the first one, flip the sign, and change to the reciprocal 3 over 26. The 3's, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we get 1 and 1. And 31 times 1 is 31. 1 times 26 is 26. 26 can go into 31 one time, and you have 5 left over 26. And that is orders of operation and complex numbers.